There's a discovery that ruins an afternoon in kitchens all over America, and if it's happened to you, the memory is vivid. You reach into the pantry for the flour, or the oatmeal, or that bag of birdseed in the corner and you see it, fine. Silky webbing matted across the top of the food, and when you look closer, tiny pale worms threaded through it, and a little moth flutters lazily out past your face. Your stomach turns. And here's the thought that hits next, the one that really gets people. How long have we been eating this? Tonight I'm going to tell you why those moths are almost never a sign of a dirty kitchen, why the little traps everyone buys actually let the infestation continue, and the one quiet, methodical trick that breaks their cycle completely for the price of nothing but an afternoon. By the end of this, you're going to understand these moths better than the exterminator you were about to call, and you're going to realize the answer was never a product at all. Let me start with a fact that reframes the whole disgusting scene. Those moths almost certainly did not fly in through your window. They came home from the store, already inside your food, as eggs. The pantry moth, the Indian meal moth, the one in nearly every American case, lays microscopic eggs directly on grain, flour, cereal, nuts, dried fruit, and pet food, often back at the processing plant or the warehouse, long before the box ever reached your cart. So when you find them, your first instinct, that you did something wrong, that your kitchen is dirty, is simply false. The cleanest kitchen in the country can bring home an infestation in a sealed box of brand-name cereal. This is the first thing that makes people furious once they understand it. You paid for the moths. They rode home in the grocery bag. So why does this problem exist and why does it explode so fast? Here's the hidden truth, and it's a numbers game that'll make your skin crawl a little. A single female Indian meal moth can lay somewhere around 200 eggs, sometimes up to 400 in her short life. Those eggs hatch into the tiny caterpillars, the worms you see, and the whole cycle, egg to adult, can complete in as little as a month under warm conditions, faster in a heated house. So one moth that hitchhiked home in October becomes a population by Thanksgiving. And here's the part nobody tells you. The moth you see fluttering around is the very last and least important stage of the problem. By the time an adult is flying, the damage has already been done and the next generation is already laid. The flying moth isn't the infestation. It's the smoke from a fire that's been burning for weeks. And here's why the pantry specifically becomes a breeding ground. The larvae don't just eat your food, they're survivors. They can chew through cardboard, paper, and even thin plastic bags. A sealed box of cereal is no protection at all. They'll bore right through the liner. And when they're ready to transform, they crawl away from the food entirely, sometimes 10 or 20 feet, to find a crack or a corner to spin their cocoon. That's the detail that explains everything about why this is so hard to beat. By the time you find the webbing in the oatmeal, the next generation has already crawled off into the cracks of your cabinets, the lip of a shelf, the hinge of a door, the ceiling corner, places you'd never think to look. The food is just the nursery. The whole room is the problem. Now let's talk about why the common solutions fail, because this is where the quiet money game becomes obvious. People do three things. First, they throw out the one box where they saw the webbing, wipe the shelf, and call it done. And they're stunned when the moths are back in 2 weeks, because they tossed the one nursery they happened to see, and left a dozen hidden larvae and 100 eggs scattered through the rest of the pantry and the cracks. They treated the symptom they could see and ignored the infestation they couldn't. The second thing people do is buy the pantry moth trap, those little sticky cardboard tents you've seen, the ones with the pheromone lure. And here's the trap inside the trap, the thing the box will never say plainly. Those lures are baited with the female moth's sex pheromone, which means they only attract and catch the males. The females, the ones laying 200 eggs apiece, are completely unaffected. So you hang the trap, you watch it fill up with male moths, you feel like it's working, and meanwhile every female in your kitchen is laying eggs undisturbed. The trap is a monitor, not a cure. It tells you that you have moths. It was never designed to end them. But it sells year after year because a trap with moths stuck to it feels like victory, and the company is happy to sell you a fresh pack every season. And the third failure is the panic move, calling an exterminator and paying for a spray. But here's the thing about a food pest. You cannot and should not be spraying pesticides all over the surfaces where you keep what your family eats, and a reputable professional will tell you the same, that the real solution isn't chemical at all. So you've paid a couple $100s to be told to go clean your pantry, which is the one thing you could have done yourself if anyone had told you how, which is exactly what I'm about to do. So here's the question this whole video turns on. If the moths came home in the food, and the visible moth is the last stage, not the first, and the traps only catch the harmless males while the females keep laying, how do you actually end it? How do you win against something that's already scattered eggs and cocoons into the cracks of a room you can't take apart? And the answer, this is the reveal, is that there's no product that does it, and that's exactly why nobody sells it to you. The only thing that truly kills a pantry moth infestation is breaking the life cycle, and you break it with a methodical sweep and one quiet trick that costs nothing. Finding and destroying the source, then making the entire pantry a place where an egg cannot survive. The single most powerful weapon isn't a spray or a trap. It's heat, cold, and a vacuum cleaner, used in the right order. Let me show you why that works, because the science is the whole secret. Here's the science. Every stage of the Indian meal moth, egg, larva, pupa, adult, is vulnerable to temperature extremes, and this is the lever that ends them. Sustained cold kills them. Freezing infested or suspect dry goods at 0 degrees Fahrenheit for about a week destroys the eggs and larvae completely. And heat kills them even faster. Temperatures above roughly 120 to 140 degrees will kill all stages in a matter of hours. This is ancient knowledge, by the way. Long before refrigeration, farmers and millers fought these exact pests. And the old grain keepers knew to dry grain in the hot sun and store it cold and sealed, because they'd learned across generations that the moth cannot survive the extremes. They didn't have the entomology. They had the result. We've just forgotten what every farm household used to know. So now let me tell you exactly how this is done. Because the order matters, and this is where people who try go wrong. They clean halfway, miss the cracks, and the cycle restarts. The real method is a complete sweep, done in one go. First, you empty the entire pantry. Not the one box everything. Every bag, box, jar, and tin comes out onto the counter. And then you inspect each one like a detective, because the larvae hide. You're looking for that fine webbing, the clumping, the tiny worms, and a telltale sign people miss. Larvae love to hide in the threads of jar lids and the folds and glue seams of packaging. Anything showing webbing or movement gets sealed in a bag and taken straight out to the outdoor trash, not the kitchen can where they'll just crawl back out. Then comes the part everyone skips, and it's the part that actually wins. The empty pantry itself. You take a vacuum cleaner with a crevice tool and you go after every crack, every corner, the gaps at the back of the shelves, the screw holes, the shelf brackets, the lip under each shelf, the hinges, and especially the ceiling and wall corners of the room. Because remember, the larvae crawl up and away from the food to pupate, and that's where the cocoons are hiding. Vacuuming physically removes the eggs, the wandering larvae, and the hidden cocoons that no wiping will reach. And the instant you're done, you take that vacuum bag or canister outside and empty it into the outdoor trash, because otherwise you've just stored a nursery in your closet. Then you wash the shelves with hot soapy water. Vinegar in the water helps cut the residue, paying attention to the cracks, and you let it dry completely. You don't need a pesticide. You need thoroughness and hot water. Now here's the second secret, the factor almost everyone ignores. The reason this comes back even after a good cleaning. Are you ready? The infestation is almost never only in the food you suspect. It's in the food you'd never suspect. And the source you keep ignoring is often pet food and birdseed. Think about it. People hunt through the flour and the cereal, but the biggest, longest-lived reservoirs of these moths in the American home are the giant bag of dog or cat kibble in the corner, the birdseed in the garage, the grass seed, the bag of rice you forgot in the back. These sit untouched for months, warm and undisturbed, the perfect breeding factory. You can scrub your cereal shelf spotless, and the infestation will simply re-pour out of the dog food bag you never thought to check. And there's a second blind spot just as common. The moths don't stay in the pantry. They wander, so an infestation can be living in a forgotten decorative bowl of ornamental corn, a fall wreath with dried seed pods, a bag of potpourri, even a sealed bag of grain you're keeping as a craft material. If you clean the pantry and skip the pet food, the bird seed, and the decorative seed stuff, you haven't broken the cycle. You've just moved it across the room. So let me build you the complete system, the thing no product on the shelf gives you, because there's no money in telling you the answer is an afternoon and a vacuum. The foundation is the full sweep I just described. Empty everything, inspect everything, including the pet food and the decorations. Trash the infested, vacuum every crack and corner, wash with hot water and empty the vacuum outside. The second layer is the temperature trick that prevents the next outbreak. Anything you bring home that could carry them, the flour, the cornmeal, the nuts, the birdseed, you put in the freezer for about a week when you first buy it, which kills any eggs that rode home before they can ever hatch. The old grain keeper's wisdom in your kitchen freezer. The third layer is denying them a home for good, and this is where you finally outsmart the larvae's one great weapon. They chew through cardboard and plastic bags, so you take that away from them. You move your dry goods into hard airtight containers, glass jars, thick rigid plastic with a tight gasket, metal tins. The flour out of the paper sack and into a jar, the cereal out of the box, the pet food into a sealed bin with a locking lid. A larva that can chew through a bag cannot chew through glass, and a moth that can't reach the food can't lay eggs in it. You've turned your pantry into a place where the cycle simply cannot continue, and only now does that pheromone trap earn its keep, not as your cure, but as your early warning system, hung in the clean pantry to alert you if a single male shows up, so you catch the next hitchhiker before it becomes a population. That's the whole system. Sweep out the source, freeze the newcomers, then seal everything in glass and use the trap only as a smoke alarm. 4 moves, and almost nobody runs all 4. Because the store only sells you the trap, the one piece that was never going to end it on its own. Now let's do the math, because this is where it lands. An exterminator visit for a pantry pest commonly runs $100 to a couple $100, often for the privilege of being told to clean your pantry. A pack of pheromone traps runs around $10 to $15 and needs replacing every few weeks, season after season, while only ever catching the males now compare. The full sweep costs you nothing but an afternoon and the hot water you already pay for. The freezer trick is free, you already own the freezer. And the airtight containers, a set of good glass or jars or sealed bins, might run you $20 to $40 one time, and they last decades and pay for themselves by keeping your flour and cereal fresh on top of moth-proof. You're looking at a one-time outlay of a few dollars against an endless loop of traps and a couple $100 service call that hands the real work right back to you anyway. So let's bring this all the way home. Remember that gut punch moment at the start, the webbing in the oatmeal, the little worms, the moth drifting past your face, and that sick thought, how long have we been eating this? Now you understand the whole truth. You didn't do anything wrong. The moths came home in the food as eggs before you ever owned them. The moth you saw was the last stage, not the first. The trap you'd have bought only catches the males while the females lay on undisturbed. And the real answer was never a product at all. It was an afternoon, a vacuum into every crack, the freezer that kills what hitchhikes home, and a few glass jars that lock the cycle out forever. None of this was hidden because it's complicated. It was hidden because there's no profit in telling you the cure is free. The pieces were kept scattered on purpose, a trap here, a service call there, and the scattering was always the business model. So here's what I'm asking you to do, and it's small, but it'll surprise you. Tonight, before anything else, go check the one thing you've never checked. The bag of pet food, or the birdseed, or that decorative bowl of dried corn. Open it up and really look. And come back to this channel and tell me in the comments where you found the real source, because I'd bet money it wasn't the cereal you blamed. It was the bag in the corner nobody thinks about, and I want to know if I'm right. If this pulled the curtain back for you even a little, subscribe and tap the bell, because this is exactly what we do here at Home Remedy Files. We go find the thing they quietly hoped you'd never look up, and we look it up anyway. Stay close. There's a lot more buried out there, and we're only just getting started.